Well, hello, friends. I'd like to invite you to a new webinar at Astrology University called Hard Aspects and Your Evolution. And this is also going to be the first webinar from a new speaker that I'm very excited to introduce you to today, Hiroki Nizato. And he is with us today to tell you a little bit about himself and his background in astrology. So thanks for joining me, Hiroki.
Thank you for having me here, Tony.
Yeah. So can you tell folks a little bit about your background in astrology just to kick things off?
Yes, so I am a graduate of the master's program offered by Natal. So I was fortunate to study with him for, I would say, about 20 years. And we've gotten to be very good friends through that mentorship, but also I was his interpreter for the 5 tours he did in Japan. So I ended up translating his seminars that he gave to hundreds of people in Japan, but also was the translator for the individual private consultations that he did in Japan. Over 120 clients in Japanese. So that was also a good personal experience of how a master astrologer works in a private consultation setting. So that was a good opportunity for me as well. My background prior to that was I was a computer science major in university, and then I discovered astrology while I was a college student. So I think during my college days, I've probably read over 100 astrology books because I was very much passionate about the whole thing. And I figured I could become a professional someday if I studied hard enough. So I had the inkling. But then after a while, I started noticing that there is a strong element of a fatalistic mindset. I mean, naturally from studying astrology, because I think people that study astrology feel that it's not random, that life is not random. There's some kind of order in why we were born into the time and place we were born into. And then we look at our horoscopes, and then we try to find out what destiny entails for us, what destiny is in store for us. But then I've noticed that a lot of the things that are said about the difficult placements in the horoscope tend to be pretty black and white and pretty discouraging, really. So at that point, after reading so many books and then just finding these fatalistic mindset that was so prevalent, then I almost quit astrology altogether, feeling that, well, maybe this is not something I want to share with other people if this is the way we have to approach looking at a horoscope. And then my good fortune was that my friend encouraged me to study with Noel Till. I read a few of his books, and he was quite different from a lot of the usual astrologers in that his writings were mostly about real people living lives, whether it's about their careers or relationships. And then the undertone of his writing was that it's not fatalistic. The problematic or difficult tense formations in your natal chart is not something that you just have to endure, but it's something to understand. And then what is getting in the way of fulfilling your potential. So then the underlying understanding was that people can change and make the best use of what you were given, and not denying the difficulties of life, because life is difficult, as many wise people have said. And his writing, Noel Till's writing through his dozens of books, is that it's very Capricorn in that he talks about the difficulties head on, the difficult conditions of life. But at the same time, it doesn't end there. There's always a very conscious approach to how do you overcome the particular issues that you have? So then Saturn is not just a symbol for limitation and the frustration, but it's also the symbol for ambition and major accomplishments in life. Or Pluto is not just the symbolism of death or destruction or heavy psychological trauma, but it's also the symbolism for people that are publicly prominent. It's a symbol of empowerment. So then there is a very nice balance between understanding the successes that people have and how the astrology reflects that, versus simply also reflecting the difficulties that everybody experiences in life. So that's a very interesting, I think, a unique flavor that Noel Till has in his approach to astrology. And I was very much encouraged by that. And my thinking got turned around very quickly in the course of receiving the education from his being mentored by him. So yes, that is some of my background in astrology.
Thanks for that. You were speaking about, talking about clients and their difficulties, and that's a really nice segue into telling folks a little bit about what you're going to share in this webinar, which is called Hard Aspects in Your Evolution. So can you tell folks a little bit about what the inspiration is for that topic and what you're going to be presenting in the webinar?
Yes, so hard aspects, especially from the so-called malefic planets, Saturn, Mars, outer planets, they are thought of as afflictions. And this is the old word to describe those placements. And they naturally have a very frightening or negative image, and especially for the students that are studying with the resurgence of the classical way of looking at these things, they can seem like it is kind of damning for your entire life because the natal chart does not change. So that's one way of looking at the horoscope, but really it's not all that accurate if you're only coming from that perspective. So it is not diminishing the difficulties that people experience that are reflected by these hard aspects, these tense formations in your natal chart, because most people can say, yes, I have had difficulties in life, and these difficult descriptions that I read in the books seem to be pretty real to me. So it's not denying those things, but also it's understanding the hard aspects as developmental tension. This is Noel Till's way of looking at the hard aspects. Developmental tension, those two words imply the understanding that you are under development. The two principles of those two planets involved in the aspect, they are undergoing some kind of change. So astrology is a study of change, and usually people do not stay static, even though your horoscope does not change. The natal chart does not change, but you are changing. So then the hard aspects usually is the battleground of where the transformation is taking place or the transformation needs to take place. And so I wanted to just offer a few different scenarios where very common hard aspects that everybody is familiar with, most people have them in their natal chart, understand how you tend to experience that in early life, and then how they might evolve over the course of your life. So it's a kind of an exercise to think about your natal chart, the hard placements in your natal chart, in looking through it like a process, and then understanding it using that perspective to see if that helps you to have a better, more well-rounded, I would say more realistic way of understanding how people's lives change over the course of time, rather than saying that, oh, this is affliction. So I think some astrologers traumatize their clients because they are a firm believer that these placements are afflictions. and then they are very vocal about sharing that with their clients. So then some people come to me already being traumatized by what other astrologers have told them, and then so it becomes a kind of a healing experience almost, just to get a better like a more well-rounded perspective, I think. But for students that are learning astrology and of course applying the knowledge into their own lives, then I think it's helpful to somehow um, take these one measurement that is supposed to be so difficult or awful, and then really trying to understand what is happening in real life.
Yeah, I mean that framework you have of putting it in the context of growth or evolution or even just self-understanding is really huge here. And I know that's a lot of what you're going to be sharing with folks in the webinar. So I really look forward to it. Thanks for putting all this information together for us. And thanks for being with me today to chat with me and to help people get to know you. And if you're interested in hearing Hiroki's thoughts on hard aspects in your evolution, head over to astrologyuniversity.com/events, where you'll find the webinar information available on the event page if you're tuning in before the event. If you're watching this video after it's already live, you can just type in Hiroki's name into the search bar of any page of the website. It's Hiroki. And the webinar will just pop right up. You can also type in the title there. And if you have any trouble at all finding it, email us at help@astrologyuniversity.com, and we'd be happy to help you out. Well, we look forward to seeing you soon, Hiroki, and I can't wait to see your webinar.
Thank you very much, Tony.